Hello, welcome to Chapter 3 Podcast, the show for readers of science fiction, fantasy, and romance. This is Season 2, Episode 23, and today's episode is for people who aren't sure where to start with graphic novels and manga. This is a really great topic that was requested by our patron Sarah, so thank you to Sarah for the suggestion. And speaking of Patreon, you can now join us on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. If you want to join the conversation on Discord, get early access to episodes, and get exclusive bonus content, you can check out the link either in the show notes if you're downloading the episode or in the video description if you're watching us on YouTube. So go and check that out. But for today, talking graphic novels and manga, we have brought on two experts to help us out, Bre and Ashley. So thank you all so much for joining us for this.
Hello.
Bre's face. She's like, I'm not an expert.
I'm not an expert.
You have a whole club. So introduce yourselves and also maybe a little bit of background if you want about your history with manga and graphic novels.
Well, they call me Breezy in these streets. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. So I have a channel called Lock Booktition. It's a booktube channel. I also have a plant tube channel called Lock Plantition. But my introductory, I should say that better, to manga and graphic novels and comics, and knowing that they are three distinct things, come from Ashley from Bookish Realm, but also dunked on by Shay and Izzy, and I think there's another booktuber that I can't remember of their name right now. But I wouldn't have never gotten into it if it wasn't for those booktubers really influencing me. And now I feel like I have a little bit of a chokehold like in it, and I can't escape. And then I'm getting really sad that I'll get into volumes of manga specifically and then find out that it's only like 9 volumes, and I just get really sad because it's coming to an end. Monster, again, I'm looking at you. I get his collected volumes, but still, it does hurt my heart. That's why I'm going to try my luck at Blood on the Tracks, hopefully, via Ashley and Tokyo Ghoul. Yeah. I'm going to say Shay, I think, told me about.
Tamika would have been Tokyo Ghoul. That's like one of her faves.
Tamika.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I knew her then, though, at that time.
Do you want to tell listeners a little bit about what those are about?
Oh, yeah,
who's kind of new and doesn't know.
So currently right now, my wheelhouse of reading when it comes to manga is psychological thriller and mystery and horror. I haven't really strayed outside of that. When I did stray outside of it, I had to text Ashley because I was like, girl, I'm not liking Food Wars. And that's when I strayed out of it. But no shade, no tea. We never coming from our girl.
We're going to have to talk about Food Wars on this episode.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to talk about Food Wars.
Listen, there was no shade, no tea, never coming from my girl on Beyonce's internet. However, I was like, ooh, this ain't it. So Monster it's a psychological thriller. Like I said, it's 9 collected volumes. It follows this doctor named Tenma. He's Japanese, and he is one of the, I guess I would say, few surgeons in this hospital. So at this hospital, he is really trying to uphold the doctor's oath, I forget what it's called, and also just really put the patient first. However, when he gets a call that he needs to take care of these 2 twins, the head person at this hospital was like, hey, so I need you to take care of this person because they're more important, and they making money, and they're probably a donor or something like that. And Dr. Tim was like, nah, man, these kids came in here first. I'm gonna go ahead and snip. Anyway, his job was on the line and his relationship was on the line because he was doing, hanging out, if you know what I'm saying, with the head doctor daughter. So he's like, man, I have to choose between my relationship, my job, saving these kids. And he decided to put himself first and these kids first and take care of these kids, but he don't know that there is an insidious nature that is about to unravel. So now he has to literally fight for his livelihood, fight for other people, and fight for his reputation in order to clear his name, because murders keep happening and keep strangely being connected to him. So now this detective is like, yo, where Tema at? And following this man all over Europe, trying to figure out what's going on, who killed all these folks, and what's happening. So that's as far as I can say before I really go into spoilers. And then Tokyo Ghoul, I've seen a couple. I think I've read volume 1 and 2. What I'm getting is that there's this boy working at this cafe, and there are other people who are at this cafe, and he's finding out that there are people in this certain district who are ghouls, and that ghouls have all of these different stereotypes, or different what do you call them, like classifiers, that they are a ghoul. However, he is crushing on this young girl, and then his life takes a turn. I don't want to spoil it, but he's crushing on this girl. His life takes a turn, and he is forced to live in a world that is different from his own. And it's kind of like he's trying to, adjust being in two different worlds. And I only finished the second volume, so it kind of reminds me of like people who are biracial or multiracial trying to figure out, like, am I this? Am I that? Am I both? What does that mean? And he just have a lot of adjusting to do to his new circumstances.
The parallel that he's like kind of biracial, like, just clicked in my head because I've also read a couple volumes of Tokyo Ghoul. Like, that makes a lot of sense, like, to think about it that way. I would note also that one is very graphic, and it is like kind of zombie-esque for anyone who is like hesitant for that, but it's really good. The anime is also really good, so
absolutely, yeah. So I think that's all I can think of right now. I know I've read other manga, but that's really where it's at that I can think of. And then graphic novel, I read all genres, don't even matter. And the same with comics. More comics, I read more thriller and horror, I would say.
Okay.
And mystery, but graphic novels, I read. I do enjoy, for me, more nonfiction graphic novels than I like.
Can be really
fiction.
Good.
I love a nonfiction graphic novel.
I hope I explained some of that right, but
that was great.
I think you did.
Thank you. Ashley,
it's my turn.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. I'm Ashley. I have a channel, Bookish Realm. Man, I've been reading comics for a minute now. Comics and graphic novels for a minute. That's kind of the love of my life. I love comics and graphic novels. I got dipped into manga a little bit. Not heavily. I used to watch this manga tuber, Laura. I think her name is Laura. She's a manga hoarder. I used to watch her videos back in the day. And then I really get a lot of my recommendations when it comes to manga from Shay, Tamika, and Izzy. I don't typically stick to any genre for comics or manga or graphic novels. I kind of like am willing to kind of dip my toes into a little bit of everything. This year, I feel like I've been diving a little bit more into shonen than I have in the past.
What is shonen?
So Izzy probably can explain this better.
I was gonna say, do you want to finish your intro and all?
Yeah,
if we want to do
intro
manga
maybe
first. I'll break down the
intro to manga.
An intro to manga after is what I was thinking. So
great.
But yeah, so I definitely have been dipping more into seinen and shonen this year than I have in the past. I used to really heavily, when I first started reading manga, I feel like it was more shoujo outside of Food Wars. Food Wars was my first introduction to manga, and it's not for everybody. It has a lot of fan service in it, and it's very jarring. Like a very, very, and the anime is even worse. Like, I've told people, like, check out the anime, and people have watched the first episode and they're like, no, I can't this is way too much. So,
you're gonna have to give a synopsis of this. And also, okay, I have to say, because this ties in perfectly, the question we have from one of our patrons, Beth L. Beth, I'm sorry. I know this isn't actually probably what you were looking for. However, graphic novels or manga involving either food or RPGs in some way.
We got her. There are some.
There are some.
Okay.
I don't know what Food Wars would be the one. But I really do, because they're you know, there is a team of people who worked on this, and so the recipes that you do get in Food Wars are extremely detailed, and they actually talk about the science behind food, which I'm not a science person, but learning about the actual like science behind food and how things work together, even at like I mean, like a molecular level, like that is, it's very fascinating, even for someone who's not like a science oriented person. So that's why I really, really loved it. But also, Food Wars is one of those series where, I mean, I think it's like 36 volumes, and it begins to get a little redundant because there's only so many competitions that you could do. But I always tell people, like, if you're a fan of what was a cooking show back in the day that
Top Chef?
not was it Top
Iron
Chef?
Chef?
Iron Chef.
Iron Chef.
People,
That's, I was like, why did my brain go to top? It's Iron Chef.
Iron Chef. If you know people who used to like Iron Chef from back in the day, it kind of has similar vibes. When it comes to comics, I am heavy into the superhero aspect of comics, which I know is probably people's like biggest fear when jumping into comics, is like the superhero is like, where do I start?
Yeah.
So I'm like currently right now I'm doing kind of a really rough read of some of DC's like New 52 stuff. I just finished the first part of Scott Snyder's trilogy dealing with Batman. It's longer than a trilogy. It's like 9 volumes, but he's very, very well known for those first 3 volumes in the New 52.
They're so good.
And they're good. Yeah. The first one I read, I was totally like mind blown because it's my first time reading it. Because I never really was a Batman fan, but I if you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of the writer James Tynion the Fourth. He's done some amazing things. Probably one of his hottest comics right now is Something Is Killing the Children, which
shout out to him.
Bre and I also have a comic book club, so we read a comics graphic novel club where we read a selection of stuff every single month. We've been doing it since December of last year, and we've kind of read all over the spectrum. Last month we finished up Something Is Killing the Children, volume 1 through 4. House of Slaughter Volume 1, and this month we have we're reading Watchmen and V for Vendetta, so classic Alan Moore, because we thought, you know, August back to school classics, that was kind of the direction that we wanted to take it in.
Get them on Hoopla.
Yeah, and we made sure whenever we were doing it, we wanted to make sure it was accessible as possible, so we tried to pick as many titles as we could that were available on Hoopla. But comics are like, I mean, that's like the love of my life. Like, I like reading prose, but I mean, I think that the beauty of comics for me and graphic novels is how much storytelling is done with so few words.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And so, you know, whenever I get the chance to talk about them and give them credit and try to help people navigate, because I know it can get hard. It's hard, but it's a great medium to kind of dive into.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we have a lot of ground, I feel like, to cover with this. But for anybody who doesn't really understand what manga is, or I don't fully understand, honestly, because I don't really read it, but I have like very, very tiny amounts. But there's a lot of different subgenres that I have heard people mention. Izzy, do you want to do kind of like crash course?
Yeah, I'm going to give you like messy crash course. This is not perfection.
That's okay.
But there's basically 4 categories for manga we're going to start with. There are other categories in this that are like your hentai and ecchi, which are like your 18 plus mangas, which we're not going to dive into. I mean, I'll have some recs for you in this, but basic categories are shonen and shoujo. Shonen, it's all about who it's marketed towards in Japan. So we're going to use really gender essential language here because that's what they use in Japan. That does not mean it's only for boys or only for girls. Shonen is your One Piece, your Naruto's, your Bleach, those big titles that you often see running thousands of chapters, hundreds of volumes. They're very action-oriented usually, and they are marketed towards boys. So there's a magazine called Shonen Jump in Japan, and they would release chapters. I don't think the magazine comes out like weekly there, and they release chapters of different manga, and then like those get collected up into volumes. It's a whole thing. And then there's shoujo, which is like your girly manga. But just because it's for girls does not mean it's only romance or it's only kissing books or whatever you want to consider it. Because there is fantasy shoujo, there's action shoujo. Like, it's just who they're marketing it towards. And that also doesn't mean that, like, sometimes there's series I love that are seinen, which is the adult men category, where they're marketing it towards adult men. And again, those can be, I think Tokyo Ghoul is seinen, if I remember correctly. But those are going to be like your more adult titles. You're not going to hand those to a teenager. Berserk is an adult title. You know, you shouldn't be picking these up if you're 13. They're graphic. They're, you know, intense titles that are exploring a lot of things. And then the equivalent of that for women is josei. And that is going to be your more adult female titles. Again, same thing. It's graphic, but that does also not mean that it's just kissing books or romance. Because some people think it means like, you know, josei and shoujo only have like girly stuff, right? Like, I'm again using the terms people in the community would use towards it, and that's not the case. Like, you can find many of these titles with many of the same things across the lines. Your best bet, if you are curious and trying to figure out what to call a title, is to search the title name and then Baka updates, because they list all the categories for the title, which is great. That is a tip I got from Shay early on in my manga reading, and I was like, this is so helpful. But also, you're going to find like slice of life, you know, so you've got your just day-to-day books, you've got action, I'm looking at my shelves, you know, high school settings, just all kinds of different genres within those titles. And then the term fan service in manga generally involves half-naked women or men, and interesting poses, perhaps underwear showing, things like that. You will see that often in your seinen and all that stuff. I feel like it tends to happen more often in the male-marketed manga than the female-marketed manga. And what else? What other terms are there? But yeah, and then hentai is your 18 plus. You'll also hear words like boys love for gay manga and yuri for sapphic mangas. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing. I think that's like the basic 101. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's a lot, so I can see why it would be sort of intimidating. But one of the questions that we got is, if you are looking for romance and you're interested in that in manga, what are a couple of places that somebody could start? And anybody who has some recommendations, I could jump in. What are a couple of good places to start for that?
Did you just say for manga?
For romance. If you're a romance reader and you want to try manga, what are some entry points?
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've got a couple.
Yeah, go ahead. There's a lot.
There is, if you want a high school age, so this is going to be shoujo, really cute love triangle. There is a lot of love triangles in manga, but they're always fun, and I don't mind them. There's Love and Focus. It's 3 volumes, and there's a completed collection out. So that's an easy one to possibly get for your library. Some of them are on KU also, so I think you'd read the first 2 volumes on KU, and then you have to buy the third one. But that's a great way to start. It's a really cute about a girl who has a passion for photography, goes off to school in the mountains, lives in a boarding house with 2 other boys. One of them was her childhood friend, and one of them, she is like this mysterious boy, of course. And it's their love story. And it's really cute. It's her figuring out herself and why she likes him and if she likes him and all that. But it's 3 volumes. You're not like over, you know, it's not like over 12 volumes where you're like, oh my gosh, it's this love triangle, never ending. Right. That author also has a series called That Wolf Boy Is Mine. That is also really cute. That is a more paranormal series. Same thing, a couple volumes are in KU last I checked, and you can dive in that way.
That one reminds me of Fruits Basket.
It does. It has Fruits Basket vibes.
Yeah.
If you want a more adult title, there's Wotakoi. Love is Hard for Otaku. These are 2 coworkers / childhood friends who are big nerds. They play video games, watch anime, and all the fun stuff. And it's their slow journey of falling in love along with some other characters. This one's really cute, Bethany. I think you would like this one.
That sounds cute.
When I have my full set after I've read through all of them, I'll send them to you. You can borrow them and read them. And then for sapphic right now, my favorite sapphic manga is Donuts Under a Crescent Moon, which ends in volume 4. So there's only 4 volumes, so it's lower investment because obviously manga can be expensive. This follows 2 coworkers who are exploring the idea of liking each other and if they like each other and what that means. And it's just really precious. So these are there. Ashley, do you have some or?
I mean, so my favorite one that's kind of it's romance, but then also I feel like it's also about the friendship between the 2 women, which should be no surprise, is Nana. The downside to reading Nana is that it is not complete. The mangaka stopped at volume, it's either 21 or 22, I can't remember off the top of my head, and it's been on hiatus since 2009, I think.
And no signs of returning.
And no signs no signs of returning. So, I mean, the story is great. I think the anime is amazing. It was one of my first, after Food Wars, it was one of the first ones that I stepped into. So I love it, but there is kind of a slight risk to taking that one. I love Donuts Under Crescent Moon. I did not know that it was only going to be 4 volumes. That breaks my heart a little bit. Izzy put me on Sweat and Soap.
Yes, that is. I figured you would wreck Sweat and Soap, so I was like, I won't wreck this one. I'll give you that one.
It's
try not to take the easy ones. That is one that's technically seinen, but it's a romance. So this is where I say, like, you can't judge purely on the things to know like what you're getting.
That one is really cute. Literally, you have these two. It's an office romance. They work for the same company, and she sweats a lot and is always concerned about how her body odor may present itself. And he sniffs her, and it gets on and popping from it is the cutest thing.
It's the weirdest premise. The sniffing's really only a big part of like volume 1. I feel like.
And that's it.
So like it happens occasionally after, but like so it's not like it's heavy theme. But he makes the soaps, and he like designs soap specifically for. It's really precious. Like
it is. Cute. It is.
It's very cute.
I also. So this one is it's a BL. And it's Seaside Stranger. I'm slowly making my way through that one. This one it's what I liked about this one particularly is that it feels very realistic. It's 2 guys, one who lives at I don't want to say like this is Seaside Villa, but he's living there with his, I believe it's his aunt, because he comes out as gay and his parents don't want him in the house, so he moves out there. And he meets another guy who kind of sits by the ocean, and he essentially says like, I'm interested or whatever. And the guy's like, well, I'm about to go more inland, go to school or whatever. This is not going to happen. He pops back up a couple of years later and it's like, okay, I'm ready to be in a relationship with you. And he's like, no, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But they do start a relationship. But it's literally them kind of like working through the ups and downs of their relationship. And it does feel extremely realistic. That one does have explicit scenes on page. So if you're not comfortable with that, I would not recommend picking that one up. But I think that for me, I'm reading a Yuri title right now. I don't know how I feel about it. Izzy, I don't know if you've read it. It's If I Could Reach You. It's a brother's wife. It's so it's interesting because the main character lives with her brother and his wife. And she clearly has had feelings for the wife for a very long time. And so it's her trying to figure out these feelings while all of them are living in the same household. And the way that volume 2 kind of ends, without me spoiling, is like it's setting up for them to have a potential relationship. I literally have volume 3 and 4 sitting beside me. That one has been interesting. And then I am slowly working my way through what is the one, Izzy, that you told me would take a turn by volume 3? Why can't I remember the name
How
of
Do
it?
We Relationship?
Yes. So I'm on volume 4 of How Do We Relationship, which is another Yuri title, and I felt some type of way about volume 3. So
that one's hard to wreck now because like at first I thought it was a romance, and I don't think it's actually a romance.
And that's what I was like, like it starts off like a romance, but it may not end up being the romance that
if you want a really slow burn, the other one that I have to always wreck is Yona of the Dawn. This is a big commitment though. We're at 36 volumes.
Yeah, that is a big commitment.
But this is a really long political fantasy. Basically, she sees her dad be murdered. And then her bodyguard takes her on the run with him to protect her so she doesn't get killed because her cousin murdered her father to take the throne. And then it turns out that she's the reincarnation of the Red Dragon and has 4 dragon familiars who are like humans with superpowers.
Wow.
It's really good. It is really good. Shay and I, Shay Geeks Out and I, at some point soon will be hosting a read along of this series. So
ready.
It's one of those ones that like it's a romance, but it's a very slow burn, like slow building. Like, you know, I
love a slow burn.
Yeah.
But this is another one that I feel like also, Bethany, you would like.
I mean, that also
romance
sounded like something I would enjoy. Okay, so before we pivot to graphic novels, any kind of other recommendations? People who are, and Bre, maybe you have some, but like good entry points for people who want to dip their toes into manga and are feeling intimidated.
Okay, I wrote them down because I could not believe I forgot these 2. Okay. One of them, I think I found on my own. That's the only one I'm going to say I think I found. I think. Keyword is think. I could be lying.
Okay.
The other one is Ashley. And I'm mad that I just thought about it and I don't have volume 3. I'm pissed. So, Drops of Gold.
Drops of God.
Somebody been dropped. Somebody been dropped.
How could I forget about that one? I'm like, what did I wreck to you?
Drops of God.
That is a good
so
manga.
Good.
That's a good manga.
It's giving you, making you feel like you a sommelier, like you out here tasting wine, and it's just super like technical in the way that it's written. Like, look. They have it's this person is trying to pretty much take his father's inheritance, and in order to do so, he has to identify the drop of God, which is like this really good wine.
It's 14 of them. It's 14 of them.
Shoot, 14 of them.
There's 14 of them.
He has to identify them because his father, knew them and named them that or whatever. And there's a girl involved. I forget how she's involved. But I don't know if it will be a romance or whatever. But I'm probably not explaining it great. But it was really good. Ashley, did you want to explain it better before I go to the next one, or?
It's
spoil it too.
It's hard to find physically. That one you would have to read digitally. Like, I have not been able to buy physical volumes of that. Is extremely expensive, and Comixology took over. That's how I found it, because I had a subscription Comixology, and they took it over and started pushing the volumes out, so you can read it through. I don't know if you can read it through. You should be able to read it through KU, actually, if I'm not mistaken. You should, but see, KU and Comixology always get me confused because they kind of have some like crossover, so it's very weird. But I think you should be able to read it through KU. But like Bre said, it's very intricate, very kind of like Food Wars gets down to that molecular level of like food science. This kind of does that with wine, and it seems like it would be dry and boring, but the competitive aspect of it is what makes it so interesting. And I feel like each volume ends on these wild cliffhangers to where when you don't have that next volume, you're kind of screwed. So it's been a while for me since I've actually picked it up, but I know I was reading it heavy last year.
It's a commitment.
It is a commitment.
It's 42 volumes.
Whoa.
Available on Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a long one, and each volume is pretty
thick.
long. Yeah, each volume is pretty long, so it is a commitment. And I think it's also one of those series too where like you have to break it up so that you don't get too overwhelmed by the details of it all.
Yeah,
I can see that. It's hard,
but it's good.
It's good though.
It's good.
Yeah.
The author is Tadishi Agi. I hope I'm not saying that wrong.
I struggle every time and I feel bad, so I just don't try.
I do too.
Yeah. I have to figure out, because I think I don't know if they were volume one or collective volumes, but I read 2 really thick ones. Or do you think that was just volume 1 and 2, Ashley? Like
it's
regular.
kind of hard because you may have read an actual like a collected edition, because I've seen the collected editions in person and they're much thicker than they're thicker than the ones that I have read digitally. So it may be the collected edition that you read. So you may technically be on volume, like if you read both, you may be on volume 5.
Okay. I'm going to Google it right now.
What other one did you have?
The other one is Moriarty. I will scream to the rooftop and back. To the rooftop and back. I'm looking at you. What is it? Right Stuff that don't be having them available for me. Anyway, Moriarty follows none other than Moriarty himself. Sherlock makes a little, Salt Bay drop action of appearance, but it's really Moriarty out here just being like, look, it is my job and the people I employ to mess over and destroy the rich. It can be really graphic. I will say there are some moments of it being graphic, but I truly enjoy this manga series. I think we're on probably volume. Oh, hold on, I'll have to Google. But
I think you're on like 5 or 6.
I think it's over that.
Is it over that now? Okay.
I think it's like over 8 or 9 volumes.
Wow.
I love Moriarty. I also will say that if you get Viz Media, shout out to Ashley for putting it in my view, $1.99 a month. If you got it. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it, But
that is a good way to read your manga.
On Moriarty, huh?
That is a good option for people wanting to try like
wonderful
the shonen and seinen titles more specifically are on there. But it's a good spot to start.
Download the app. You will not. I'm personally a mad at my $1.99.
No.
And you get each chapter of Moriarty. Just put it there for you. I don't want. I'm just saying. You get each chapter of Moriarty, and you can read some Genju Ito on there. Get you some. Get you some horror in your life because you need it. You need Uzumaki, right? You need it.
I don't know.
I don't, but you do.
I don't know if
you do. You need Romina. You need Censor. Okay.
But there's a lot to explore on the app, which is well worth your time if you're trying to get into manga.
Yeah.
Ashley, do you have any recs? I do have. I'll give us a rapid fire before we close out of like some other spots for people to start.
Yeah, I have some. I know Death Note is very well known, but it's complete. I think that that's that's kind of a lot of people's gateway into manga is reading Death Note. Same thing with like Fruits Basket. A couple of series that I have been enjoying lately. Let me, of course, I would lose my spot and where I was. Laid Back Camp, Days on Fez have been 2 very like comfort series for me. They're very slice of life, day to day, not really like anything that's happening. Days on Fez focuses on 2 high school girls who love going to music festivals. So if you're into like music or music festivals or learning more about music festivals, the different things that happen there, Days on Fez is the way to go. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's only 5 volumes and it should be complete. So that's a good one. Laid Back Camp. I'm not an outdoorsy person, but for some reason, Laid Back Camp has been very like mellow and chill,
Mm-hmm.
and I've really enjoyed it. If you're looking for something that's like a little paranormal with humor, The Devil is a Part-Timer is hilarious to me. I actually started watching the anime of that one first, and then started reading the manga, and thought it was good. Do you like food? Otherworldly izakaya? Izakaya Nobu?
Yeah.
That one has been good. I liked A Silent Voice for disability rep. Izzy put me on A Sign of Affection. That has
Oh,
yes,
there we go.
yes. That touched my heart. Oh my gosh, I loved it because I heard Izzy talk about it so much, and I went and I read it. I love Izzy.
This
You
is
can
a college set.
Yeah.
She is deaf. Well, hold on. I'm like molding in front of it. So she's deaf, and she meets him on the train. And he realizes that she can't understand him. And they end up like befriending each other, and she's teaching him sign language, and they start dating, and it's really precious. He also is like a person who's just kind of lived all over the world and travels a ton, and she's super interested in travel. So like, it's just just the sweetest relationship.
That's really
It's
cute.
so cute, and it's set in college. And it just was one of those ones that, like, every time I read it, I just feel like warm feelings, like it just makes you feel happy, and they're precious. That was in my rapid rec, so you're good.
Your Lie in April, which if I would prepare, that one is so sad. I had to stop. That one's complete too, I think. Maybe at like 11 volumes. Is it 11? Something around
that
there.
seems right. That seems right.
Yeah.
But that's one I haven't read because it's too sad.
It's super sad, but if you like music, especially like if you have any interest in like classical music, it focuses on a kid that essentially was abused by his mother. And he was this competitive pianist, and his mother passes away, which is not a spoil because it's the core of the story. And he stops playing, and he meets this girl that's a violinist, and she's pushing him to get back into his music and to fall back in love with it and to do it, on his own time and not think about how his mother would treat him when she was training him. But there's a catch-22 to all of it. And I made it to volume 6 before I was like, okay, I need to break off from it for a little while because I was just like, this is going to destroy me emotionally. But yeah, I mean, that Sasaki and Miyano, which is another BL series that I'm slowly making my way through, that's been good. And I've really enjoyed it. I've been trying to step a little bit more into like paranormal stuff. So Toilet Down, Hanako-kun, Zon 100, which I'm trying to figure out how long I'm going to stick with Zon 100. Because Izzy
I
was
just after 3 volumes, I was
Izzy was like, I'm done.
Fun. Like, it's fun. It's just very
it's a lot.
It's very boy centric in it's one of those ones that you read it and you're like, this is why it's marketed as what it is.
Yeah.
Like 100%. Like it is like, and one was like a guy like screaming about seeing boobs like a whole volume, and I was just like,
okay.
It's very like I mean,
but then you're like cackling in another chapter or volume because it's funny. But then you're like, we didn't need a whole volume dedicated to boobs.
I felt like
y'all, we are gonna run out of time to talk about graphic novels. We need to like.
I'm sorry.
It's gonna be like an all manga episode.
No, I
love it.
I definitely I do agree, Izzy. It's very it's not one that I would recommend to everyone because I think it has a certain level of immaturity to it that a lot of people are not going to enjoy. But I'm going to see how far I can make it. But that's all the recs that I have.
Okay, I'm going to give speed rapid fire recs just so that we cover some other genres. Witch Hat Atelier is a Eisner winning manga. It has beautiful art. It follows these kids at a school learning magic, and somebody's learning magic that isn't supposed to. And we follow that journey. It's award winning. It's up to volume 9 right now. It is, I mean, just stunning art if you're watching the video. Highly recommend. And if you're into fantasies, like, I feel like it's an easy one. If you're a thriller reader or a horror reader and you have not picked up Blood on the Tracks, this is a very easy to read manga. This does follow a mother who is abusive and terrible, and all the content warnings going to this. I'm not going to list them all because we're doing speed recs, but all the content warnings up to volume 13 is a prologue is my other warning. But you could definitely just pick up a couple volumes, see if you like it. It's very quick to read. I think I read these in about 20 minutes or less. That's how quick it is. Like, there's not a ton of text. Great art, great exploration of what that does to you. And volume 9's a mind-blowing. Blue Flag is a high school set love quadrangle. So there's literally like a love that's like going everywhere. This is really about self-discovery and figuring out your sexuality and love and all those fun things. And it's really emotional, really good, complete. So easy to pick up. And then last, Something's Wrong with Us is your other thriller rec I have for people. This is a romance where she literally marries a man to help uncover what happened to her mother when her mom was murdered when she was like 6.
Why would you tell me that? I gotta add it. It's
also a romance. This is the josei. So it's a romance, but it's also got thriller elements. It's kind of dark romance-y, but not like suspense-y also. Like, it's that whole mix of like romantic suspense.
Love it.
Really, really good.
Awesome.
I've got like volume 5, so yeah.
So y'all have tons of recommendations to go check out for manga, and we're going to talk briefly a little bit about places to start for graphic novels, places, and so maybe y'all can think about it. I have a couple that I will often recommend to sci-fi fantasy readers that are maybe obvious, but I think genuinely good, and it's why people recommend them. Monstrous by Marjorie Liu has some of the most incredible in-depth world building I've seen in graphic novels. It's got this gorgeous Art Deco kind of style to the art. It is adult, it is more graphic at times, but it's weird and beautiful and really interesting. It's kind of I don't really know even what to say about it, but if you're into fantasy and you like world building, that is where I would say to start. And then if you like weird stuff and sci-fi, Saga by Brian K. Vaughan is excellent. Very strange at times, but just like the creativity is off the charts. And it also kind of follows a family that has almost like a Romeo and Juliet type story of like people who weren't supposed to fall in love and had a baby together, and people are trying to kill them and they're trying to escape through the universe is kind of
heavy on the kill.
Yeah. So
heavy on the don't fall in love with anybody.
Heavy on the your
Do
favorite
not
character.
Get attached.
Don't get attached.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Heavy on the don't get attached to anyone when you read this one.
Heavy
True.
on the everybody can get it. I mean, I'm talking about death.
Everybody. Nobody's safe.
Yeah, no one is safe.
No.
Kill your darlings. That is Saga.
Yeah.
Kill your darlings.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think generally Brian K. Vaughan writes really interesting stories.
He does.
He does.
I agree. Very extensive. So this is the same writer behind Paper Girls, which just got its adaptation.
Right. The Last Man.
The Last Man, which also has an adaptation. He did the Runaways, the original Runaways before what's their face got a hold of it. I forget the author who picked it up, but he's done quite a bit of stuff. I will say, just for context, his stuff does not always age well. But that's kind of the nature that you get into when we start stepping into, especially comics.
Yeah.
You're gonna find a lot of content.
I mean, Ashley and I have had this conversation before, but I think the biggest warning when going into comics is to remember that comics is not as up with it as the rest of the book world. Saga has some ableist language in it. So does Paper Girls. The comic industry, like the pace at which it moves is almost like it's almost hard for them to keep up because it's so it's fast and slow all at once. Like, it takes so long to make a comic, but it's also like, they're pumping out a comic a month.
Yeah.
I
guess one thing I do appreciate about Brian K. Vaughan specifically, and I don't know so much about the Saga stuff, but I have heard him speak on Why the Last Man and how he would do things differently in terms of gender identity stuff if he were to go back. So I always appreciate creators who aren't so precious about their work that they can't admit that there were faults that could have been better. But
yeah.
Other suggestions people have, good places to start for different kinds of readers getting into graphic novels.
I want to give just a service recommendation. Like KU, go get Comixology Unlimited. And just like you can scroll around and look at a bunch of stuff on there and like kind of pick up, and they'll have stuff grouped into genres, which can help some. And it's a good way to also explore a lot more of the like more non superhero genre. I feel like Hoopla also has a lot. So like just make sure you're like checking those places so you're not dropping tons of money on volumes of things.
Yeah.
I would also, so I'm gonna do kind of like you did, Izzy, with kind of like a language kind of breakdown too with dealing with comics and graphic novels, is that I know that like sometimes they get used interchangeably and they're not always the same thing. I know people who do call bind ups of comics graphic. I don't, because I look at them as completely two different distinctions, where a graphic novel has a middle, beginning, and end, whereas with a comic, you are getting a piece of the puzzle, which it'll extend into volumes. There's things called trades. Trades usually include about 2 issues. Then you have hardcovers, which would include trades include more than 2 issues. I apologize. Trades can include up to four or more issues. Hardcovers would typically go, I mean, they can go up to 8, and then you have an omnibus, which would go even higher than that. And so, or you can read issue by issue, which if you're newer into comic book world, I do not necessarily recommend doing issue by issue. Collecting issue by issue is a very expensive hobby to have. And it is very easy to get lost in the mud of trying to read things issue by issue. I would say once you get a little bit more experience, that's kind of, you could go that way. But I would stick to reading like trades or hardcovers or complete collections to kind of get started like that. So that's a hardcover.
Yeah.
A hardcover is a saga.
And that collects what, like 3 of the trades?
It probably would be. It probably would only be 2 of the trades, to be honest with you. Unless, how many issues is that in that 3?
I'm trying to say
mine's down on the ground. I was too lazy to go get it.
Yeah, mine is all the way across the room. I'm not finna.
Oh, Jesus. It's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
So 4 volumes.
Yeah.
4 volumes.
Is in this one. Hi, this is my favorite book to own.
And then there's a complete, not a complete, but there's a large compendium. So you have compendiums too, which include a whole lot. Those are the ones that are like 1,000+ pages. I'm very weary sometimes about picking up compendiums because you have people like Marvel and DC that will print compendiums and print a limited edition or limited amount of compendiums, and then they go out of print.
Yep.
Which is
I read one compendium, and that was Paper Girls.
Yeah, Paper Girls that complete.
Walking Dead had the Walking Dead comics had the compendiums. They were huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. Like if you've ever seen like the big Walking Deads on the shelf.
Yeah. Because we are definitely running out of time for the episode, and we still need to do upcoming releases, but I want to get a few other specific recommendations for people who are looking for a place to start with comics or graphic novels.
I will, as a beginner, I think I would tell you what not to do, and then you can go ahead and live your life. So the thing that I did was I chose a character, which could be good or bad, but I chose a character from where they first started, and I kind of messed up because it burned me out.
Oh, so like superheroes. I mean, that's its own whole.
I feel like
that's why I'm kind of lost on how to answer this question.
Maybe I would say like another part 2 with superhero ones.
Yeah, I think superheroes is its own beast. So I would say, like, for people who just are like wanting to get into the format, even, I mean, I would even say like, Saga. I mean, Saga is good, Monstrous is good. Like also, there's nonfiction. Okay. There's some nonfiction out there that's really good. Persepolis is excellent.
I mean, if we want to do rapid fire, I would always say, just as kind of a tool to use, If you're looking to start, you want to avoid Marvel and DC. The companies that you want to start with, especially one of the top ones to start with, is going to be Image.
Yeah.
Image produces a lot of the best indie comics out there, and they're usually writers and artists that are from DC and Marvel. So you see a lot of that. You have Dark Horse, you have Zenescope. If you're looking to start places, I mean, horror, Something is Killing the Children is a good place to start. The Nice House on the Lake, also by James Tynion, is a good place to start. Lock and Key by Joe Hill, that's another horror place to start.
Rachel Rising,
the Tea Dragon Society.
Yeah. I
is
think
adorable. Have y'all read that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, you haven't read the Tea Dragon Society?
I think I read the first one, and I wasn't super into it. See, okay. Bethany, then too, with comics and graphic novels, I mean, you can get really, really in the weeds about, not even about comics, like middle grade graphic. You know what I'm saying? That I think would appeal to some adults. So
yeah,
rapid
I think it's adorable because I'm like, I would give this to my children. You know?
Yeah,
it's cute.
Paranormal, historical, Bitterroot. That went in pause right now, but that's a good place to start.
Crazy.
I haven't read it, but with the movie out, Heartstopper has a bunch of volumes.
Yeah, it has 4 volumes out. Heartstopper is a good place to start.
And you can read that for free online. You do not have to buy the bind-up volumes.
Because it's a webcomic. If you're looking for another horror graphic novel or comic, The Silver Coin, which is an anthology. Ice Cream Man is another horror mystery, which is also kind of anthology. So they're all short stories, but they're connected by this evil entity called the Ice Cream Man. That one's pretty far if you're looking for slice of life. Giant Days, Avant-Gardes, both of those have
Avant-Garde.
Oh, I like Giant Days.
If you're looking for Archie, because I know some people like to keep it old school, Mark Waid did a really, really nice run of Archie that I really enjoyed. I do not recommend Nick Spencer's run of Archie, but Mark Waid's run, I think was like 6 volumes, which gives you a nice look.
Is that the run with Fiona as the artist?
Yes, Fiona was the artist on a few of the issues in volume 1, and I think she dropped after that. If you're looking for something gritty, gory, Berserker with Keanu Reeves wrote it, and Keanu Reeves is the main character.
Interesting.
It's really interesting. It's getting a Netflix adaptation, I think, sometimes too.
I wonder if that could be a thing too with adaptations. If there's something that you like that comes for, because like that's an example. Sandman is about to come out.
I do not recommend stepping into that lightly.
I would not recommend.
I would not recommend Sandman lightly.
Interesting. I haven't read them, but I've heard people who love like the Neil Gaiman.
Oh no, it's a good.
No, it's great,
series, but it's expansive and it connects
of
with
its own.
other. So like it'll connect with like Lock and Key, which will be kind of confusing if you've never read Lock and Key. So
Sandman, they have specific writers.
That's so interesting. But all of those also have adaptations, so you could like connect like what you're watching to what you're reading.
Yeah. And they have different. They have different writers who do different things, and I don't know, it's very confusing. Like it's
because then Noah Hopkinson helped with that too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I would avoid the Boys comics. Everyone I know that's read the Boys and watched the show said the comics are terrible, so don't read them. Just watch the show.
Yeah.
That's the one adaptation I've been told don't bother.
Good to know.
Yeah, I will say coming up releases. The Silver Coin, Ashley, Volume 5 is coming out this month. I mean, Issue 5, sorry. Issue 5 is coming out. There is a comic I want to get into, which is The Me You Love in the Dark. It's by Image. Well, Image produces it, if that's how the words you say it. Let me see. Bitterroot 15 comes out this month. I've been looking at Lazarus. I don't know what's going on, but I've been looking. Issue 16 come out.
I haven't been super amped on Lazarus, but I think you would like it though, Bre.
You think I would like it?
Yeah, I think that's more up your alley.
Okay.
Another good one too, if you like Power Rangers, Radiant Black, done by Kyle Higgins. He's the same writer of Power Rangers. But I think a lot of people who are millennials would relate to Radiant Black because it's about a millennial that is struggling. He wants to be a writer, can't make ends meet because he doesn't have the experience, and so he has to move back home with his parents. And then he comes into contact with this entity that gives him superpowers, and it definitely does have a Power Rangers feel. Like fairy tale stuff, Fables by Bill
Oh
Willingham.
yeah, Fable.
Yeah.
But the caveat to that is that it's an extensive universe as well.
Yeah.
You have a lot of spinoffs with Fables, but if you like fairy tale retellings, I think that that's definitely something that you can step into. If you like mythology, what is the name of the series? The Wicked and the Divine.
Yeah.
People
Lore Olympus, if you like mythology as well. That
Lore
I mean, that's bound up now. It's a webcomic, but it still counts, I feel like.
If you, like
graphic.
me, are a huge fan of N.K. Jemisin, you should read Far Sector because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to know anything about Green Lantern to read it.
You don't.
You don't have to know
I'm
anything
gonna
about Green
take back
Lantern.
everything I said earlier. If I was on the wrong page. Those things are already out. I'm gonna take it back. I thought I went. It took me to 2021. Just lie to me, Image. Lie to me on the website.
If you like stuff that's I can stop. I can stop.
So we probably do need to move on. I guess one other thing is we did have that question about graphic novels or manga involving either food or RPGs in some way. This okay, so
like that.
Chef's Kiss. Okay.
It's romance. It's cute. Food.
She said, I recently found Check Please and My Room is a Dungeon Rest Stop and love them both.
The Adventure Zone comic is based off a D&D podcast. And you could just read the comic without listening to the podcast, and they kind of make D&D references in the comic, even though it's a comicization of their podcast art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those where it's like,
funny.
It's weird,
I read the first volume of it. It was funny.
They're very cute. They're very fun. I need to read the latest one, but that's a good one to pick up. And the art's really good in that, and it's, they're funny. So kind of gets you your RPG in there.
Yeah.
Food wise, I mean, Food Wars, but with the fan service, I think Sweetness and Lightning.
Something's Wrong with Us also has food because they make the candies.
Okay, Sweetness and Lightning has a food element to it. Otherworldly Izakaya Nobu is about a restaurant that has a food element in it as well. I'm trying to think of anything else that I know that has food attached to it.
Other than
There's not a lot.
Drops of God has wine.
The wine.
Yeah. It's weird. I thought there would be more.
Tea Dragon Society has
your
tea because the dragons grow tea leaves out of their head.
Bethany really trying to push it, and I think
it's cute. I like that series. I like those. They're very cute.
So hopefully that helps everyone. I know we're going to run past time on this, but we are going to move into On My Radar, where we'll share recent or upcoming book releases in sci-fi, fantasy, and romance we're excited about. And the books for today's episode that I'm recommending are going to be released between August 23rd and September 25th, 2022. Whatever people are bringing that is recent or upcoming is great. Basically everything is coming out at the end of August, and I had to significantly cut back my list of things to suggest because a couple of them I took out because I figured y'all might mention them. So maybe we can just kind of like go around and take turns with stuff. My first big giant one that I have already I haven't even read it yet, and I've ordered 3 copies of this book, but August 23rd. I'm convinced it's going to be one of my favorite books. I hope I'm right. But August 23rd, we're getting Babel by R.F. Kuang, which she is calling, it's like a dark academia, but it's being called a thematic response to the secret history and a tonal response to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell that grapples with student revolutions, colonial resistance, and the use of translation as a tool of empire. I'm so hyped for this book. I really love the Poppy War series, but I feel like I'm gonna love. So yeah, I have ordered like.
I'm awaiting my friends to read that one very anxiously to know if I should read it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Early reviews from people I know who have read it are really good, so I have very high hopes.
Nice. Mine is You're Invited by Amanda Jayatisa.
Mm-hmm.
She's from India, and I believe she's from India. That one comes out next week on the 9th. I read her book, My Sweet Girl, and was like, yes, 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 yes. It's a thriller. I think this one is also a thriller. Her thrillers tend to have like a psychological aspect to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to read You're Invited.
Awesome.
Is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go for it.
Mine comes out in September. It's Nubia and the Amazons. This is DC solicitation. It is. I'm excited for it because a lot of people don't realize that there are multiple versions of quote unquote Wonder Woman. Nubia was introduced, I believe, in the 70s and is Diana's twin sister, and she's
Ah,
black.
cool.
And so I'm excited for because they started her off at a number one within the past year, and her trade comes out September 6th.
Ooh,
Exciting.
I'm excited to see how that's going to play in the movie.
It's awesome.
I hope they don't touch it.
I don't want them to touch
Yeah.
it.
I don't want them to touch it.
Yeah, fair.
My August 23rd, one of them, because I feel like every single book is coming out.
Everything is coming out August.
Wild.
Yeah.
Is To Catch a Raven by Beverly Jenkins. It's the third one in the Women Who Dare series.
Ooh.
I don't know a ton about it, but basically this is about Raven, Moreau, and this girl who comes from a long line of grifters, and they're kind of like on a thing together trying to solve a situation that is suspected that the person's house that they're in like stole something during the war. So like during the Civil War.
Nice.
So they have to pretend that they're married. So we're gonna have the whole like fake relationship that sizzles into more, and it's Beverly Jenkins, and we know
Always good.
Always good.
Always good. Yeah. Other one coming out August 23rd, I'm reading an arc of right now, is Aphrodite and the Duke by J.J. McAvoy. This is a second chance historical romance, diverse Regency with a jilted beauty and a regretful Duke. They're recommending for fans of Bridgerton. The cover is gorgeous, and the heroine is black, and her family is like from Africa, but in Regency England. So far, I've been enjoying that one pretty well. And yeah, I'm excited that we're getting more diversity in our historicals finally.
Mm-hmm.
It was needed.
My next one is All Good People Here, and I hope I remember this one. So not really a big podcaster girl. However, the Crime Junkies, I will watch it and listen to it. Listen to it. So Crime Junkies is like this girl named Bre, and then like the co-host or the person I think who does most of the stuff on the podcast is Ashley Flowers. She's writing a book. It's a thriller. I'm excited to read it, and it's called All Good People Here, and it comes out on the 19th. So I hope that it's good. I really hope that it's good.
Awesome. Ashley, I'm wondering if you could talk about one of the two big middle grade titles that we have coming out in this time.
Oh, yes.
Oh, gosh. Which one do you want to visit? A Taste of Magic or Amari?
Either.
Okay. So I'm currently reading A Taste of Magic.
Okay.
Which is, I don't really even know how to explain it, but it's by JL. So this is the same author of Wings of Ebony. Middle grade title, where it is, from what I've read so far, about a young girl who is getting some magical abilities after she turns a certain age. And that's as far as I have gotten. And then at the end of this month, we also are getting the sequel to Amari and the Night Brothers, which is Amari and the Great Game. Is that right, y'all?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
It should be a shame because I'm sitting here ordering all this stuff. Like,
I know. Yeah, of course.
It's the Amari and the Great Game.
The Great Game, yeah.
You're
right. The Great Game, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so those are two huge middle grade titles that are going to be dropping
very soon.
Very, very soon at the end of this month.
Yep.
I'm very ready for Amari's sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my other August 23rd release, because again, everything is coming out, is Heartbreaker by Sarah McLean, which is the second book in her Hell's Bells series, which is Victorian England which is like such a nice change of pace also from like Regency all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this follows Adelaide Frampton, who is the quiet wallflower that happens to be the matchbreaker. So she is always going around helping with her squad to break up marriages and perhaps help people avoid the altar if needed. And then we have the Duke of Claiborne, who's very uptight, and they have to go on a journey across Britain in a carriage to go make something not happen. And she's like chaos, and he's very buttoned up. So sunshine, grumpy sunshine, and just like someone who literally sits here and steals things from people all the time, and he's like, why would you do that? That is wrong. So I'm very excited for their dynamic to play out.
Love it. Like, I feel like I have too many things. Maybe I'll do a couple quick ones together and not say too much. Last one I have, August 23rd, Much Ado About Dukes by Eva Devon, is a Regency romance retelling of Much Ado About Nothing, which I love. One of the best like Shakespeare comedies in my opinion, so I'm excited to read that. And then August 25th, there's the third book in an indie fantasy series coming out that I like, Bonds of Chaos by Zach Argyle. This is the third book in the Threadlight series. I really like it. I think the writing from book one was good. Book 2 was really excellent. The magic and the world building is super fascinating, and he writes great female characters, including older female characters. They're not like cookie cutter. That I'm just really impressed with how he writes female characters, which you don't get all the time with guys writing fantasy. So really liking that series.
Does anybody have anything else, or I have one more that I can do? So
is it my turn?
Yeah. If you have more.
Okay. Yeah. If you have one, if you don't, that's okay.
So I'm trying to slowly get back to historical fiction because I don't know why I left it, but I've been chilling somewhere else. Anyway, so Mademoiselle Revolution is one that I wanted to look in. It's historical fiction about this girl she's biracial, and she is fleeing the Haitian Revolution, and she goes to Paris, and then life happens. So I wanted to read that one. And then I think Karen Slaughter, there's no secret that I like this lady. So Karen Slaughter has a book coming out this month called Girl Forgotten, I believe. I can't even remember, but I'm thinking off brain that she has that one coming out. I cannot tell you what it's about. She's an auto buy for me. That's just where we're at, and that's where we're going to be. And then hold on. Oh, it says right here. While protecting a judge getting death threats, a U.S. Marshal investigates the cold case of a popular girl killed on prom night in 1982. So I'm excited to read that one. And then I think there was a book coming out also by Alice Feeney this month.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Forgot the title of that. I really did not like Rock Paper Scissors, whatever the name of that book was.
Yeah.
So I was going to give her another try. And then Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't think I've read anything about her, and about this author. I don't want to say her. I might be misgendering people. Okay. And this author has a book coming out called Carrie Soto is Back. I thought I would try that because I got it. And then Karen McManus. Sorry, I'm like, and then Karen McManus, who I also like, even though her last one hit and like should have been. But she do young adult mystery, and I really like it. And it's like a true crime show investigation called Nothing More to Tell. And I'll shut up.
Awesome.
Is it me?
Ashley, yeah. If you got any.
Okay. I'll do rapid, not really even talking about them much. One called A Girl's Guide to Love and Magic. This one takes place during West Indian Day Parade, includes voodoo. Aunt gets possessed by a spirit. It's young adult. Another kind of middle grade, coming up Cuban, which is looking at the impact of the 1959 Cuban Revolution. And then the last one that I have is Wonder Girl, which does not come out until October 25th of this year. But it's another Wonder Woman, except it's Yara Flor, and she is Brazilian. And so they introduced Yara Flor with DC's Future State. So I'm really interested in seeing the the final bind up of her issue.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I got one. I'll quickly, because I feel like if I don't wreck this one, I'm doing a disservice to one of my favorite series of the year. It's Their Vicious Darling. It's book 3 in the Vicious Lost Boys series by Nikki St. Crow. If you like dark romance, retellings, Peter Pan, even I'm not a huge Peter Pan fan, I like this, and a Why Choose, which is the new term for the like polyamorous C romances, you should pick this up. I devoured that first book within like less than 24 hours, and every book subsequently has been devoured in less than 24 hours. As soon as I get my arc, I will be done with that book within a day. Like, they're just like candy, but super good and fun. And it's about a darling daughter is cursed at their 18th birthday to be kidnapped by Peter Pan as he tries to refine his shadow. And we have a lot of twists and turns, and it's just a really different take on the story that I've seen. And it's just like, if you like those kinds of books and you're listening to the podcast, you haven't read this yet, you're in for a treat.
Awesome. Okay, so I've got 2 more that I'll quickly mention coming out August 30th. One is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This is his first fantasy book. He does like literary sci-fi fantasy. I'm really interested. 2 warriors shepherd an ancient god across a broken land to end the tyrannical reign of a royal family in this new epic fantasy from the author of The Vanished Birds. So that I really want to read. And then one that I have read and absolutely loved was A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland. If you like fantasy romance, this should be on your radar. It is a prince and bodyguard gay romance, but the power dynamics are handled pretty well, and there's like political intrigue, and it's great and really swoon-worthy and slow burn, and I really loved it. So that will be coming out August 30th as well. So thank you so much to Bre and Ashley for joining us, and everyone. I know we ran a little longer than usual, but hopefully you have lots and lots of recommendations to get you started. And if you enjoyed the podcast, we would appreciate if you take a moment to rate and review us so we can continue to reach more listeners. Don't forget to check out our Patreon if you're interested in joining us there. And this has been Chapter 3 Podcast. We're your hosts, Bethany and Izzy. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Chapter 3 Podcast. And you can follow all of us on our individual YouTube channels, which will be linked down below in the show notes, depending on where you're watching us or listening to us. The next episode will be available in 2 weeks. Izzy and I will be back interviewing Sarah McLean, so that should be very exciting. And this episode's bonus content will be available to patrons in the next few days. Thanks for listening.